Clash of styles between Colorado wrestling product Mallory Martin. She's taking on the black belt in Taekwondo. You know her as Cheyanne Vlismas. Yes, she took back her maiden name. She is the Warrior Princess. It's not Baze, and she's got a big-time fight coming up this weekend. Coming off a Performance of the Night bonus and a first-round knockout win over Gloria DePaula, Matt, she put the doubters to rest. She loses that fight to Montserrat Conejo, who was supposed to be in this fight. See, Cheyenne's taking this one on short notice. It was supposed to be Montserrat versus Mallory Martin. Martin goes from taking on a wrestler to now taking on a striker. An interesting switch of the fight, because for Martin, this is somebody, we talked about her all the time. I've got it in the graphic, Easton Training Center, but I could put Elevation. I could put, she trains at Elevation, but she trains Team Onyx, I guess they call it. She trains with Rose Namajunas is really what I'm trying to say, and trained to get her ready for her fight with Zhang Weili. So for Martin, she's looking to kind of learn from Diffusion. They have trained together for a very long time. And the one thing that I found very interesting when I looked into Mallory Martin's background, because again, I've seen her fight 3 times in the UFC. She's won 1 of them. She's lost 2 of them. But she lost in both of those to fighters who won the way you'd think they'd win. I mean, Vina Jandiroba submits her. Polyana Viana, what happens? Well, I said it in the prediction video. I said, okay, Martin's going to take her down, but you can't play in her guard. Takes her down, plays in her guard, Polyana going to submit off her back, and that's just how it's going to happen. So Martin definitely has to switch a few things up. But the one thing that I found very interesting, she won a Tiger Muay Thai scholarship and trained over at Tiger Muay Thai for a couple of years. With Antonina Shevchenko and Loma Lookmanme. I found that crazy because when I watched Mallory Martin fight, I did not know that.
No,
Great cardio, great takedowns, great ground and pound when she gets on top. But when she's striking, I just didn't figure that.
It's kind of like when they introduce Roy Nelson and they don't say, like, a boxer. They say he's a kung fu fighter. Excuse me? Because I just think about Mallory Martin. You hear about what her striking could be, but we haven't seen it yet in the cage. And this is a really, really interesting fight because these are 2 fighters who I'm just going to call, they're in the Vanessa Demopoulos category, where it feels like every loss could be your last one. And the thing about Cheyanne Vlismas is that in 2 fights ago against Conejo, we talked about, she's a pretty good offensive wrestler herself. She should be able to defend some of those takedown defense, or some of the takedown attempts from Conejo, and at least have some success in the feet. And what happened in that fight, Craig?
Matt, it was like when I play the UFC video game, and I'm always at heavyweight, and I'm always Mark Hunt. And what do?
Leg kicks?
Well, leg kicks every time you win. It's a cheat code. It's like Francis Bouillon, NHL 07. You just cut in front of the net, and then you put the puck in. Every single time it works. Montserrat did those head and arm throws, and every single time they worked.
And remember how the end of that fight went too, when Cheyanne lost that fight in a very poor way, and then flipped her off a bunch, and then said that Conejo spit on her, and then after the fight she was like, "Oh no, it didn't happen."
All's forgot.
Yeah, just be a better loser. That's all I'm gonna say. This is the thing about Cheyanne. I feel like people are getting a little bit too caught up in the hype based on her last knockout win, because when I look at her and her overall striking, I don't think she's this crazy high-level striker. I think she just throws really, really hard. And it was almost like the Ronda Rousey thing, where Joe Rogan was saying Ronda Rousey is as good of a boxer as Floyd Mayweather, and how, her striking is as good as anybody. No, she just threw really hard. With Vlismas, she is a good striker, don't get me wrong. But is her footwork super high level? No. Is her output extremely high level? It's okay, but she lacks the ability to get fighters off of her if they really want to push a crazy pressure on her. So, when I look at her striking, I don't necessarily think it is crazy high level, and that's what I always go back to. With Mallory Martin, at least she can go out there and get takedowns. Now, is that always a good thing for her? No, not at all. You said it perfectly. Like, sometimes she will kind of have these lapses in concentration on the mat, and that really has cost her in the past, especially with her submission defense. So, this fight is one of those fights where it could go any which way, and I know I wouldn't be surprised, and hopefully no one at home is either. Like, if Mallory Martin went out there, looked half decent on the feet, and got a bunch of takedowns, I wouldn't be surprised at all. If Vlismas went out there, defended a bunch of takedowns, chopped down the lead leg of Mallory Martin, and ended up winning like a 30-26 scorecard, I also wouldn't be very surprised by it.
Martin's taken on a very good level of competition. If you want to point to anything, you look at her path to the UFC, fights over with Invicta, beats Nicole DeSegni. You know her from the other things other than fighting. but
Venus
also
by
fighting.
far the best fighter on either one of these ladies' resume.
Beats Cynthia Arcio, but again, she has a loss to Macy Barber from very early on, and her win in the UFC over Hannah Cyphers was a big one. Like, it was in a big way.
To us, maybe.
For Cheyanne Vlismas, win over Lindsay Garbat. She fought good competition. Lindsay Garbat fought Lupe Godinez in Canada. Beat Hillary Rose by decision on Contender Series, loses to Montserrat Conejo, and then beats Gloria DePaula. I think she is a very good striker. I also think the move full-time to Extreme Couture has really started to pay dividends, and I think it will continue to help her out, especially with the quality of wrestlers that you have there as well. So, Matt, when we look at this one, the odds, Vlismas open a minus 220 favorite. She's minus 190 right now. For Martin, she opened a plus 185. She's a plus 160. Topology votes. Surprise us there to you. I'm going to say over under 75% Vlismas.
I'll say over.
Look at that. 1,135 total votes, 84% Vlismas, 81% by decision. For the 16% that have Martin, 80% by decision. I like Vlismas in and out. I like her striking. I'm going back to the well of, I think she's the prospect I thought she was before the Conejo fight. I think she's going to win this one. But with the giant caveat that, again, this is such a clash of styles where Martin is so good at the one thing she does very, very well with her takedowns and her top pressure. How good can Vlismas be defending those traditional takedown attempts, the non-judo throws of Martin? That's going to be the deciding factor here. I like Cheyenne's ability in those exchanges, and I like her striking. That's why I'm going with her, but I throw that one up there.
I agree with everything you said, but I still don't think Vlismas is this like super high level prospect. I don't. If you're a good striker, you can create separation. It's as simple as that. Montserrat Conejo is not a top level fighter in the UFC whatsoever. She has really good judo takedowns, and she's not a good striker whatsoever. And Vlismas, who is a good striker, was not able to create separation. That's my only problem. Like, she is a natural striker, but when you think about the other women in this division who are also natural strikers, you're going to reach a limit where you need more than that. Because Vlismas can't outstrike Marina Rodriguez. She can't outstrike, like, I'm just saying, you're going to run into those types of fighters eventually with her skill set. Like, I just don't think she has one of these skill sets that, if a few things go her way, then it'll translate into fighting people in the top 5. I think she can have fun fights, but I do worry about her against top-level fighters.
Matt, who are you going with here?
I think Vlismas will be able to get it done in this one, but again, it's always concerning when a fighter has 3 or 4 fights in the UFC, all against, like, entry-level fighters. Like, at a certain point, we need to see a jump up in competition, and this goes for either lady. I guess with Martin, it is a little bit different. At least she has fought Jandy Hoba, who is one of the top fighters in this division. So for Vlismas, let's say she is able to get this win. You're now 2-1 in the UFC. It's not like strawweight's the deepest division, so you would expect maybe a big name next. Maybe not a ranked fighter, but a fighter who was in the rankings at some point.
Both of us going with Cheyanne Vlismas to get the win in this fight and to take on Brianna Van Buren, our next
Felice
time
Herrig,
out.
perhaps?
Big time fights on this card. Brendan Allen's taking on the Action Man, Chris Curtis, in the main event. Rob Font, Jose Aldo. You're not going to want to miss. Keep it locked in with Fight Night Picks, as we always say.
Let's get into it.